本日は
Thank you very much for your participation in Math Official Side Event Session 2 of Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit 2021. My name is Sugita from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. I'm serving as a facilitator. Nice to meet you. So the purpose and the participants of this session will be shared. In session 2, we will consider the sustainable solution for the issues through food, and we would make a consideration for partnership and nutrition improvement through food together with you. And developing countries, emerging countries, and industrial countries are now faced with a variety of challenges. Malnutrition and also obesity and overnutrition. There is a double burden of malnutrition, and also the women, some of them are suffering from anemia, and in the food systems there is no equity, and the COVID-19 situation will be aggravating the situation. So the more vulnerable people are also becoming worsening off, and various approaches fitting the needs of the region should be followed up. And personally, instead of there should be an individualized approach through better communication. For example, for women and children and the people, including vulnerable people, we needed to keep up a very good communication with them. And personally, I like to be involved in food or anything related to food, like some of you. The joy of having food, wherever you are and which country you are in, could be shared with others. So solution through this approach could be considered too. That's my personal thought. And from many sectors, we have distinguished participants from government and also from private sector and from academic sectors. We have various different participants, and nutrition improvement approach to the food system and partnership associated. We'd like to have a very lively discussion. Thank you very much for your participation. Let me introduce the participants to you. First, from Juntendo University, visiting professor, a former executive advisor of JICA, Toda, who will be a chairperson, and from FAO, Dr. Pilar Santacoloma will be joining us remotely, and JIRCAS, the Ms. Yukari Nagatoshi will be participating, and SIGMAXYZ, Mr. Hirotaka Tanaka, and the model with artificial limbs and hands, and the motivational speaker of today, Mr. Chihiro Yamada, and the Biodiversity Center of Japan, and Research Alliance for International the Tropical Zone Agricultural Center, Mr. Yasuki Morimoto will be joining us remotely, and the Ajinomoto Foundation, Mr. Yukio Shigemune. And some participants are students from Kagawa National Nutrition University, Ms. Muito Hien, and Romero Luisa-san, also a student from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. Thank you very much to you all. So, from a chairperson, in a 90-minute session, he will be sharing what should be considered by you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Ms. Sugita. Today, I intentionally would like to use Japanese language. I'm Toda from Juntendo University. Nice to meet you. You heard that wisdom exists on the global, but go for local for the food. That is one of the important topics we have to be aware for today's session, or this session. We will hear many interesting facts and what's happening on the globe. You will enjoy many people's presentations, but before that, although the time is limited, how you should take them to make them more standing out. So I believe the keyword for this session is, to me, partnership. And it's not the usual mundane partnership. It should be innovative partnership, I would say. Because now, at this kind of global conference, many people insist that we are standing at the crossword, or crossing points. And I have been in these global sessions for almost 40 years, and I have advocated this concept. However, to be frank with you, this moment cannot is the most important, and in this very important crossing point. The nutrition is very important, and although this is an issue, but this has given us the opportunities for us to grow. So remember what happened due to COVID-19, and it will be sure to have another round of a pandemic with the different viruses. And there are uncertainties because we cannot tell what kind of pandemic will happen, and then what to do. We are exposed to such level of issues. And some of the research shows that the Japanese elderly has been protected because they are healthy, and health is supported by the nutrition, and therefore without considering the nutrition, we cannot think about the future because there are many uncertainties in the future, and the nutrition is the strongest weapon we can use. And the other aspect we have to consider is global warming. There's no time to waste. And if we try to bring the tuna to the inland of Africa, it will not work well because the community-oriented approach is the more important approach. However, by using ITP, all of the wisdom can be available for all of the countries across the globe, and I believe this approach will be mainstream because money and efforts and time are all scarce, and the pandemic is going on the global world. Therefore, in order to create the bright future, wisdom should be available across the globe. Last but not least, I'd like to share this message. That is nutrition by all. That is diversity. Because each one of the individual's effort is limited. There are many people with different backgrounds, such as the ages, nationalities, and experiences, cultures. All of them are different because we are different one by one. That's why if all of the different people get together, we can create innovation, and then we can realize the concept of nutrition for all into reality. It may sound that the future is bright. However, when you listen to the presentations, there are some caveats. That is, in this world, our democracy is now threatened to the demise, and many people criticize that our societies are divided, and then disparities in many aspects has been widened, bigger than ever. Although we understand the importance of globalization, false information, misinformation has been rapidly disseminated across the globe. That's why your wisdom is necessary. How we can leverage your wisdom in the global context. How we can do that, or whether we cannot do that, and if we can do, to what degree. These issues are what I'd like to invite you to join this session to consider these very in-depth insights. Sorry for saying this as a very last point. My fervent hope is to have Ms. Sugita as a facilitator and young people, so please don't hesitate to speak up. And you have a different background, and you will enjoy the presentations with very diverse backgrounds because of the concept I have shared. And if you acknowledge that, I believe this session will be very fruitful and meaningful. I cannot say it in front of me, but there is the audience at the sub venue, and there are people across the globe connected on the internet. I hope that this session will be hopeful and helpful for everyone who is joining us right now. Thank you very much, Professor Toda. Nutrition by all, that is the key word. for us to consider how we can improve the nutrition. Now, I'd like to introduce 3 initiatives related to the assistance to the developing countries. The first presentation is by Dr. Apila Santacoloma from FAO, who is working on the independent food industry development by multi-stakeholders. Ms. Pilar, floor is yours.
Can you hear me? You are on mute. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Again, I was saying it is a great pleasure and honor to be here today and present what we are doing in terms of enhancing collaboration for SMEs, how we are doing and why. Let me introduce why we are doing so. First of all, why we support SME because SMEs make up the backbone of the food supply chains in developing countries, but also in many developed countries. They are important because they contribute to nutrition-sensitive food systems in many ways. For instance, they are familiar with local tastes and dietary habits. They offer fresh and minimally processed foods of high nutrition value. They are the main linkages for small-scale producers and also linking vulnerable consumers at local level. And also, there are plenty of opportunities to reduce food losses and waste because they are part of the short supply chain. However, they face very important challenges in terms of resources, capacities, and also policy support. FAO, with the support of MAF, is implementing a project in 3 countries, Ghana, Kenya, and Vietnam, on strengthening capacities for nutrition-sensitive food systems through a multi-stakeholder approach. And it has 3 main outputs. One is improving curriculum at the university level to enhance the professors, but also students' competences on nutrition-sensitive food systems, also enhancing, as a second output, capacities of SMEs to adopt nutrition-sensitive approaches and practices. And the third one is the development and dissemination of global e-learning, which is a public good. What are the main output and approach under this project? The curriculum enhancement has followed up a similar approach in the 3 countries, where it includes selection of subject matter, the students training needs assessment, nutrition sensitive design of curriculum, and finally training and evaluation and dissemination to other universities. And we have so far more than 200 students and professors training, and have put in place an e-learning platform in Ghana. On the SMEs, capacities and skills, we also establish a process approach, which includes the selection of SMEs, characterization, training needs, training materials, development, mentoring, and coaching, and also a tool for monitoring the mentoring and see how the SMEs adopt these practices. There are so far about 100 SMEs trained in the 3 countries. And finally, the e-learning. We have 2 courses. The first one is making the case, and that has been already launched in July in the context of the UN Food System Summit. And there are the other one is upgrading the business model and is undergoing and will be ready by December now, end of December. The main approach of these courses are using the business canvas. So integrating business integrated nutrition, into the business models of SMEs and applying what are the policy measures needed to support SMEs in this approach. We have found challenges in implementing the project. One is the neighboring environment. Definitely, we need to work more on how the policies and institutions can support SMEs for flourishing. There are also a limited number of SMEs reach. As you can see, we talk about hundreds SMEs. However, we know that there are more than thousands of SMEs in the countries, even in the 3 countries we are working on. The multi-stakeholder collaboration requires time and resources. It's a very challenge to build same language, same framework, or similar approaches. It's something that's very fruitful, but requires time and resources. And the issue of linking business and nutrition is very novel topic. It's coming very importantly, as we say, private sector is very relevant as is the main actor in the food systems. However, is an issue still emerging. So in collaboration with the NGPPP, we started thinking about a proposal to scaling up support to SMEs through this approach, the multi-stakeholder collaboration. And then we designed a stepwise approach to draft a proposal for this, which implied three main milestones: a pre-seminar in October, and a seminar in November, which was also an N4G side event, and this event. So through these events, we allow participants to knowledge sharing and also identify what are the main issues for a draft proposal and which will be components of this draft proposal. As I say, this has been a very participatory approach, and we have representatives from different angles in identifying the challenges and the possible elements of the proposal, including research institutions, NGOs, public sector, government, and also universities. Some of these entities have been working with us in the project, some others were invited to participate in this proposal. What were the main challenges we have found? We can categorize it in 5 main elements. The first one is limited supply chain management expertise. We know there are extreme need to have business planning, issues on distribution and procurement networks, knowledge on how is the national context. I mean, this enable environment. This is the first one. Then we have the issue of the producing sustainable food, and we need knowledge, input, policies, certification. And also another element is on the value added technologies. There is a extreme need to increase the availability, agroprocessing, branding, and packaging technologies and knowledge, and be affordable. And third one is expertise on producing nutritious products, so mainly product formulation, but also knowledge about the consumers and about the markets. And finally, there is limited knowledge of awareness, consumer knowledge on consumer demand on nutrition. Based on those challenges, we identified five main elements for the proposal, which I will shortly describe in the next slide. The first is the improved business and supply chain management skill. So that require different kind of activities. Some then are here mentioned, like increased workforce skills, build networks of partners beyond even of the supply chain, leveraging e-commerce to increase the market reach, and piloting innovative distribution models on networks along the supply chain. Also on the issue of sustainable production, there is a need to facilitate access to inputs, to knowledge and policies to SME to adopt sustainable climate smart agricultural practices. The third one is the enhancing value added activities and technologies for SMEs. There is a need to pilot and adopting locally appropriate technologies for food processing, packaging, and branding. The issue of SMEs product formulation is very critical. They need knowledge, but on how to formulate food, healthy food, but also issues on data collection, how to produce nutritious foods, and data collection on the nutritional status, on the demand, on the consumer behavior. Knowing better the consumer is very critical. And finally, raising consumer awareness on nutrition. That is also critical in this equation. And we need engaging with public health authorities and also allow changing our lessons and best practices. And there are some mechanisms that this kind of proposal can be implemented, including policy dialogue, capacity development, technical cooperation, arrangements working, that creation of data platform, also establishing organizations that wanted to support SMEs. All of these have as a final outcome to improve the SMEs business environment in the countries, to facilitate their integration into nutrition food systems through collaboration with the private sector, including the Japanese companies. I really want to thank you and GPP, because we follow a very participatory approach, very consultative, to come to this proposal. Thank you so much.
ミラーさん、お話をありがとうございました。フードシステムに関するお話、または事業紹介、ケニア、ガーナ、ベトナム。
Food system related reference, and also SMEs and Kenya, Vietnam, and 3 countries are mentioned, and integration should be integrated in the future food system, and important approaches were shared. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Nagatoshi from JIRCAS, who is supporting the independence of regional agriculture by developing a system by revitalizing regional natural capitalists. And the Kenya's regeneration program from South America is shared. Please.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm Nagatoshi from JIRCAS. Today, I'd like to focus on the developing countries where how the agricultural development is going on. And for this purpose in our mind, I'd like to share the actual example in Bolivia, where we try to regenerate quinoa. Quinoa was popular, but you may don't know what kind of a plant quinoa is, and therefore I'd like to explain it. This is the field of Bolivia. And quinoa is the plant, and seed is the edible part for us. Now, quinoa is so-called the perfect food because of the high minerals in our diet, especially vitamin and potassium. These minerals tend to be insufficient. However, the mineral content is higher than other foods such as fish, and that's why quinoa has drawn so much attention. In addition to that, NASA has adopted quinoa as the diet in the space. When I talk about quinoa, many people have shown their interest in that. However, quinoa is a foreign food. However, actually, it's very close to our diet. For example, this is an example of the school meal offered at the city elementary school in Tsukuba. If you look at the lower left, this is the salad of hijikishi with quinoa. In addition to that, quinoa is included in the other food, including the salad. Even on the plane, you may see the quinoa including diet, especially in the crop. Quinoa plant is grown in many cases. Now, quinoa is originated from the Andes in the Southern America. which means that this unless quinoa original area is located to the back of Japan. If you are interested on that, please take a look at the back of the brochure. Many of the quinoa is originated from Bolivia and other Southern American nations. This is the harvesting timing, and you see the height of the quinoa is higher than mine. Actually, this place is close to the famous the Union, the Salt Lake. By using the drone, we have taken this picture. You can see the southern, northern edge of the Uyuni Salt Lake. Because of the high salt concentration, you can see the crystals precipitated from the lake. The altitude is higher than the 3,800 meters, meaning that this place is higher than the Fuji Mount. And because it's so dry, and therefore no other crops than quinoa can grow. Now, seeds can be used for the food, and this is really nutrition rich. However, as a plant, it has a high potential. That's why we have paid so much attention to that. In the wide area in the Southern America, there are many varieties of quinoa, and Uyuni Lake and the surrounding area, there are quinoa farmers and they face issues, and therefore we have focused on them to conduct our research activities. As I have mentioned, altitude is very high and it's dry, and the salt concentration is very high, and this is a typical landscape. And then major plant supporting the lives of farmers is quinoa and gamma, which is the livestock. These two are the mainstay to support their lives. And this is a picture of farmers, and quinoa is very important for the farmers and how they enjoy quinoa. This is one of the quinoa cuisine. You see the meat of rama, and you can see the quinoa. It's just like a rice. In addition to that, the people put it in the soup, and this is the breakfast. Sugar, cinnamon, and clove are put to have the quinoa. And then the ground quinoa is put in the soup. It's a kind of the nutritious drink or tonic for the community people. As long as 7,500 years ago, quinoa was grown, and therefore quinoa culture has been flourished in this area. However, recently, the quinoa growing becomes very stable and unstable, because the quinoa production is unstable, and therefore the backbone of the living of the community is now missing. It's due to the impact of the climate change, as well as the land development without any good planning. So because of these two reasons, many farmers are no more able to grow quinoa. In order to resolve this issue, we have established the joint project team to tackle on this issue from the Bolivian side. There are the local universities as well as the agriculture organizations such as Pro Impact. From Japan side, the geogas as well as the plant experts and Yamada livestock experts. There are many diverse members, the members of this project team to work on this issue. This project itself has been launched 1 year ago. But up until the start of the project team, we have made the field surveys together with community people, just like this. And then we have had interviews with the local farmers to see what are necessary from their views. And then we identified that we have to have the variety of quinoa, which is adaptable to the climate change. In addition to that, including the land use, the sustainable quinoa growing is necessary. Such a systematic approach is required, and therefore, through our research, we try to establish the good framework or infrastructure for this. And we cannot wait anymore, because the quinoa is the mainstay for the livelihood of the Bolivian people. In September and October, the farmers have made the seedlings. However, this timing is also agreeing the same for the drought and the typhoon. And once again, this year, there is a damage. And this is the local report. And then even at the end of October, terrible drought has happened, and therefore farmers cannot seed. In addition to that, there's no more water for the livestock, and therefore the situation is very hard. In order to tackle these issues, we are now working on the 4 points. First point is related to the diverse gene resources in Bolivia, which is now declining because not only the grown variety, but also the wild types should be put together and stored at the genome level, which will be the asset for the local people. And this will be the asset for the future generation. In addition to that, by using the local variety, we can improve the varieties, and we have to lay the foundation to be able to do that. Furthermore, by using them, we have to establish the sustainable growing system. As I have mentioned at the very beginning, soil erosion is a very significant problem. As you see on the upper right, there's the barriers to prevent the soil erosion. In addition to that, in order to improve the productivity, instead of the chemical fertilizer, we try to preserve the vegetation in the local community. And in order to do that, what is the right option? We have to have such a discerning eyes to do that. For example, you can see the luminous, that is the kind of bean plant. We can use this. In addition to that, as you see here, we can use the local livestock of Rama to improve productivity. This is our part of research activities. Furthermore, through our activities, there is the new varieties established, and then it should be disseminated to the whole community, meaning that we have to have the network to do that. And therefore, we have collaborated with the ProImpa as the farmers organization, and they have had very close relationships, and therefore, by leveraging the good network of ProImpa, as well as the smartphones, we have the good communication, not only the in-person communication, but also SNS use-based the virtual communication, because they are reflecting the local people. The voice is very important. Now, through these research activities, we contribute to the ability to establish new varieties as well as the sustainable agriculture system. Then it can support the currently vulnerable agriculture system. Now, this may be too local for you, but for us, we believe that the outcomes derived from these research activities can be applicable to anywhere on the globe. As you see here on the map, there are many places suffering from drought and dries, and then the more than 10 square hectares are lost because of the drought, and therefore we have to establish a new agriculture system or technologies. We have worked on the Uyuni in Bolivia. The land is dried and located at a very high altitude, and therefore there's a very scarce the gene stock, meaning that it's really hard to establish the solution. However, if we identify the resources or solutions, then those expertise can be shared with many other areas across the globe, because we dare to challenge this very difficult issue. Therefore, we believe that the outcomes from our research activities should be contributing to the other areas suffering from the similar problems. This research has just started, and therefore we have to wait and see to see the actual tangible results, and that we do want to contribute to the Bolivian and global people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. You have talked about the superfood quinoa. This is also close to Japanese cuisine. Right now in Bolivia, they have suffered from the climate change, and their livelihood has come to be unstable because of the lower production of quinoa. That's where you come in together with academia to establish, for example, the new variety, and you also try to establish the sustainable agricultural system, and you try to disseminate the state-of-the-art agricultural technologies throughout the region. Thank you very much.
So the third presentation is about food innovation future. SIGMAXYZ is sponsoring Smart Kitchen Summit, wherein that varied stakeholder is getting together. Mr. Tanaka, please. Nice to meet you. My name is Tanaka from SIGMAX. So today, through the evolution of food, we are aiming to have the community development. I'd like to share my experiences. So we are Many people may not know and may not have any idea of who we are. Let me introduce ourselves. Our main business is offer consultation to businesses to support their growth strategy and their business strategy. But there are other lines of business. So there is a corporate vision that to create the better future. When we are engaged in for the better future, we need to involve many types of the people, including clients and consumers. So not just with the consulting, but also investment. And also we have the ecosystem investment. We are about 20 people organization, and we are trying to get the new organization, and we have a team vision. So this is a team vision, making our planet and individual keep smiling to create a world where everyone can live well. So this is not just they come up with after brainstorming. So in the past 5 years or so, we had many conversations with the people, many different people. We finally came up with this statement. So we are talking about the global environment, but this is where, as an industrial person, should be at the destination. Earlier, there was a difference. Only one company alone cannot do many things. As indicated here, there should be a creation of the work scheme where that many types of the collaboration will be eternally done. You can have a scheme temporarily, so we can more easily get together for certain purpose. But the sustainability of such scheme is over many years just limited. For ambitious future, we are tackling together to create a better future. As a result, in the food area, we'd like to make a contribution from Japan to realizing such world. Smart Kitchen Summit 2015, America, Seattle started this effort, and 2017, this SKS has been introduced in Japan. Last year, there was a publishment of the book titled The Food Tech Revolution. So food world is a wonderful world. So this symbolizes the many people's comment about how wonderful it is in US and Europe and Asia. Actually, this week, Turkish food innovator and us decided to get together. They have a community of the Northern Africa and the Middle East. And yesterday we talked with them, and there was a great excitement about the possibilities too. And SMEs and venture startup companies and academia. We have seen many different types of the players, actors there, so that we aspire to build a food business co-creation platform. So I'd like to touch upon what we do actually. Smart Kitchen Summit Japan, SKS Japan. If you look around the world, since around 2014, we have seen significant increase in food tech and the smart kitchen. Behind the scene, since around 2015, many countries and regions, food and technology conferences were set up and organized. Under this trend, what we initiated is a Smart Kitchen Summit in Japan. And we started out very small. And the question was, what is a smart kitchen itself? Smart home as a terminology itself was very limited in terms of the recognition. But many people didn't know about what smart kitchen mean. And this is not just a fad introduced from overseas. And the local food, and also global wisdom. Global wisdom should be brought and combined with Japan's technology and the know-how to create a formidable, great outcome. So this is where we will be aiming at. The scale is not so big and huge. Last year, on an online basis, we reached about 1,000 participants. And the conference is relatively expensive. And to avoid a misunderstanding, we deliberately set the expenses relatively higher to make sure to attract serious participants to find a solution for the food. So those people should get together there to have a serious discussion. So totally 2,000 people are actually a part of our community. And the Kitchen Summit and the related communities, there are some characteristics. They are diversified participants across the industries. Actually, just 30% are from the food industry. Other participants are from home appliance industries and home infrastructure, railway companies, startup companies, retailers, trading companies, investors, and students, and others include the people from heavy industry and plant manufacturers and auto industry companies. So they are participants with diverse background. What kind of vision they have? Last year, the Smart Kitchen SKS Japan 2020, this is opening video of last year. Could you take a look at this? Because there is a variety of keywords there. Next page, please. So there was a series of words starting with the passion. So to bring about the improved society, there were people with a strong passion, with a shared purpose. So what you're looking at the pictures is 2 years ago, before COVID-19 pandemic. This is real settings, and so people are smiling. So ordinary exposition, people will just look around the exhibits and go home, but you can make friends there. So across the industries, they become friends and colleagues. So once you became colleagues and friends, in a united way, they express a passion to create a new industry. So people and with from many different countries and many different backgrounds can overcome the differences and create new industries together. But there was one challenge. So this is annual conference, but you cannot control the passion in a sustained manner. You cannot have a passion in a sustained manner. So to make it sustainable, we started out as we are community activities. What we did is to set up an online community. And back then, there was an offline event, and currently, monthly online events are being organized. One is the food tech venture day, as indicated here. FAO's person shared their experiences. So we'd like to increase the number of the startup company from Japan. So we should be able to find a solution. Instead of having a pitch solution, this is the venue so that there should be active collaboration across the companies, including large and small countries. And in the process, FAO approached us in this past September. World Food Forum and FAO edition was organized, and 8 startup companies, food, pharmaceutical, and the GIFO, those 8 startup companies were selected to make a contribution to the finding a solution of the world, the food issues. And FAO was also supporting the effort. And also there was a Wired Japan. We collaborated with Wired Japan too. This is a bit different in nature. So food will be more related to the science, but actually we can have lots of learning from liberal arts approach too, including history. So we are trying to capture the value from liberal arts approach. So food involves in-depth learning, and many unknown are included. So we'd like to garner the knowledge and wisdom from people around the world. And the Southeast Asian communities are being built right now, so that this is where we can make a connection to the world. So from now on to the end, major key takeaways will be shared. What we are building is a community. So, and the venue in Japan, they often say that the bar in. So professor of the Harvard says that as a venue, he used the word bar in terminology. This is where the people get together. So future partnership, and we should provide assistance, not as giving the support. So there should be amplification of the passion through the process, and the people will be getting together, finding your body. So actually, this is a very equal collaboration. So sometimes the startup and large-scale companies will be having an equal footing. There will be actually the collection of the various wisdom, and ultimately across the countries, there will be gathering and collective wisdom. So formally unresolvable issue can be resolved. So 5 years, the learning was now shared with you, but thank you very much for your attention. And Mr. Tanaka of SIGMAXYZ, thank you very much. And the food platform building is and one effort that SIGMAXYZ is aiming to have, and SK Summit is leading to the effort, and also shared vision, and also collective wisdom. So Smart Kitchen Summit is a venue to ensure those are the features. So thank you very much for the three presenters. From now on, we move on to the discussion. So it should be moderated and chaired by Mr. Toda. Thank you very much, Sugita-san.
Pira-san, Nagatoshi-san, and third person, thank you very much for your good time control. We are on time. Now I'd like to open the floor for the lively discussions. But let me share my expectations for this discussion first, because we had very important inputs. And then, therefore, from the younger generation, can you please give us the answer song? You don't have to sing a song literally, but can I ask you to share your responses or images? Let me assign who to speak up. Now, the first person. Can I ask you to Dr. Buitu Hien to speak up and share your opinions and impression? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I am not so fluent in Japanese. Yeah, you can switch to English.
First of all, I want to thank for all the speakers today, and I'm very honored to be here today and take part in this discussion session. So as you may know, my name is Hien and I'm a Vietnamese student. Right now, I'm currently studying in Nutrition University, and like in Vietnam when I was an undergraduate student, so my major was also nutrition. And I know that like in my country, there's still a lot of nutrition problem, especially in the children. They have high prevalence of malnutrition and also minerals and vitamin malnutrition, especially in the mountainous and rural area. And like in my country also have some program that we provide the children the supplement. But I think this is just a short-term like solutions. If we cut the supplement, they may come back to be deficient again. So because I study nutrition, so I always thought that we can help them by like educating them about nutrition, so they have the knowledge and they can choose their food and they can like make a well-balanced diet. But then when I really think about that, the problem is that even when they have the knowledge, but the food supply, the food sources is not available. So I think that knowledge is just meaningless. That's why beside nutrition education, we should have the collaborations with other experts from like agriculture or environmental area and also business, so that we can help them cultivate their own food that is their own food, make their own food from the resource that are available at their area, their special area. So I think that is the long-term solutions for them to like maintain their health. And that's, of course, this is just an idea in my head, and I actually, to be honest, I don't know what to do or how to start if I just a nutritionist alone. And that's why today when I like take part in these sections and I see that we can have the corporate from like multi-area, multi-field, and so we can have the people where the food source is not really enough to have, like, we can provide them the tools, the method, and like the topic today is nutrition by all. If we like have the collaborate between a lot of field, we can provide the people there with the tools, and later on they can use those tools to maintain their health. And therefore, I think today's topic has a very realistic meaning, and it can apply to a lot of developing country like Vietnam, where the food distributions is still unequal among areas. So that's like some of my thoughts for today's section.
Okay, thank you very much, Vidhyan-san, and very insightful questions to be answered by all. But let us keep on kind of skepticism to the fantastic, gorgeous models, which I shared at the beginning, but we have to be very much shrewd enough and cautious enough to construct a realistic system globally. Thank you so much, Vidhyan-san. それではですね、
Then, another female participant, Ms. Romero Luisa-san, could you make a comment here?
はい、ありがとうございます。私、東京外国大学のロメロルイサと申します。
Romero Luisa from the Tokyo Foreign Language University. First of all, thank you very much for sharing the in-depth insights. I have learned quite a lot. And actually, when I listen to quinoa, because I am from Colombia, I have enjoyed quinoa since I'm quite a small child. Quinoa taste is very neutral, and therefore you can combine quinoa with any other ingredients. Even a baby can enjoy it, and therefore in the Southern Africa, the price is way cheaper than the one in Japan, and therefore quinoa is very familiar product or familiar plant to me. Still, I have learned quite a lot about quinoa. And then, in order to produce quinoa, there were many issues or barriers, I should say. At the university, I have learned the peace building. And there's an issue related to the agriculture in the developing countries, as well as the conflicts and disputes. Because I'm from Colombia, partly due to that, by using sugar cane, there's the quasi-perfect food available. However, the problem is that when we try to export it, productivity is high enough. Probably the similar situation has happened in quinoa, but the local production and the local consumption is now declining. Quinoa is a perfect food, and therefore quinoa is now enjoyed in this space. And many people have paid attention to quinoa. However, when it comes to the local community, the people don't consume quinoa so much nowadays, and because of that, they may fall into the victims of malnutrition. I heard this fact in the past. Therefore, I'd like to learn this topic later on in the discussion. At any rate, what's going on in Bolivia, including the quinoa research activities, what's good to me is the harmonization within the environment, because local community should be included in the research activities, because they have to consider on their own, and then they can consider how they can leverage quinoa, and in order to do that, the teaching them the importance of quinoa is very important, and therefore I hope that quinoa can change the world, and I'm looking forward to seeing such a world. Thank you very much for this occasion. Thank you very much, Ms. Luisa. You have learned the peace building, and therefore I wish I could have more discussions on the peace building. If time allows, I'd like to go back to this issue, but I have pointed it out. The local production and the local consumption, as you mentioned, is now disorganized as a fact. However, on the other hand, quinoa is now brought to this space. It's such a famous plant, and both sides should go side by side, meaning that the community people should be happy with quinoa, because quinoa is such a wonderful resource, and the global people have to support it. Such a mechanism or structure should be established. The key word is the health of the earth and the health of the general public, and both health have to be established side by side simultaneously. So I appreciate your participation in the discussion later on. Now I'd like to move on to Mr. Sugita. Thank you very much for the very good facilitatorship, but can you please share your opinions?
Thank you very much. I also like quinoa a lot, and my mother also likes to cook quinoa. Put the quinoa aside, personally, I listened to Mr. Tanaka's presentation. He's from SIGMAXYZ, and the kitchen summit was really interesting. And many people from many different companies got together, created synergy, and they, as a body, they develop synergy out of it and create something new. And that kind of relationship is grand. And NGO organization I have been involved in was also running a similar seminar, and the people participating in the seminar got together and become a good team. That's very important. And when it comes to partnership, FAO's presentation referred to this, but the people from many different sectors will be participating to support the nutrition. They should support nutrition in a collective manner. And also younger people, their views should be incorporated and listened to, and they have the capability to get across the message so that you can utilize some of them as an activist to create a momentum in the new campaign. And people with a vegan and with the various different backgrounds, their perspective will play a more important role too. So involving younger people is where I'd like to do. And the presence of the mothers is significant too. Mothers are always thinking about their children's health. And in East Japan Great Earthquake, actually, I was hit by the Great Earthquake. I felt that the mothers and grandmothers, without any lifeline availability, they try to source many different food and also to cook a very high nutritious food for us. So their wisdom should be also utilized. And a variety source of the partnership and wisdom should be also utilized. That's important. Ms. Sugita, thank you very much. And hopefully we'd like to have Piro-san to give us a comment. And Piro-san referred to students in her presentation too. So younger people are the ones creating a future. So younger people should be an actor to lead this process forward. So this process should be accelerated too. And also the mothers also offering a source of wisdom, and so do fathers. I think that that's my personal comment. Excuse me, and I cannot see them in person, but in the sub meeting area, are there any reactions or comments from people from there? And according to the information there, they got together about 10 times. People from companies, businesses, and the government and academia at another sub meeting area. So although I cannot see them in person, but anyone from sub venue, could you make a comment? And I am working for the incorporated organization that nobody should be left behind, and I'm working for the social service organization. I have a question to Mr. Tanaka of SIGMAX. You mentioned the partnership, and you will be having a greater output from synergy. And there are people looking for such output, social carers, and also people from the food bank. I often be having an interaction with. Those people are waiting for the output. And have you considered and contacted such people to find out what they are looking for? Do you have any idea to design output by contacting these people? Thank you. Mr. Tanaka, please. Thank you very much for your question. And my presentation, yes, I am in total agreement with your point. Day to day, we are always talking about the principle that local solution can be found locally. So just talking about the strategy by a business person may not be sufficient because there is a life for the people. And also in the society, there are local workers and also some of the younger people and residents engaged as in the care for others and elderlies. How we can have comments from them is another point. Sometimes we have a discussion with the business person about the importance of the social caring. Always we are aware of the importance that everything should be connected together. And sometimes not just involving a private sector is adequate, because when we are talking about the involvement of the local communities together with the professor universities, university professors, we should talk about how the supplied lunch should be, and also the joint the community-based effort, what we need to do about that joint effort, and wisdom should be available, not just from Tokyo, but from anywhere else too. This is not the Genki Dama or the Dragon Ball, but there should be some stimulation for the momentum. That's exactly where we are looking for. So if you don't mind, please do join us in our community event and planning. Thank you. Mr. Tanaka, thank you very much. So with this having a hint, people in the sub meeting section should have a connection with the Tanaka-san. 1970s, there was a terminology of prosumer argued by Professor Tofuda. Production and consumption, instead of having it dichotomy, there should be integration of these two notions so that everybody will be aligned to look ahead toward the future. Yes, indeed, I am totally agreement. Yes, when we are talking about such topic with the university professors, production and consumption are getting far apart. We heard all the keywords, local consumption and local production, which will enrich the value of the community and local land, so that all the people will be getting enriched. So if you understand those aspects, you have a total understanding of the food policy formulation. So we should see such evolution too. Thank you. I recognize we are running out of the time, but here we'd like to invite 3 distinguished guests here. First guest is Mr. Chihiro Yamada, and he will make an introduction about himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Chihiro Yamada. First of all, thank you very much for giving me such a valuable opportunity. I really appreciate now about myself. 10 years ago, I got a traffic accident where I mutilated both hands and one leg. And at that time, this body was the present of my parents, and it's a really chagrin to lose as many as 3 limbs. But I'm ashamed that when I had all limbs, including food and cooking, cleaning, and house chores, I didn't do anything. At that time, back then, my parents were with me and they were so sad, and I myself didn't know what to do from now on with the 3 limbs lost. And I realized that I had to be really autonomous and independent, and therefore, since I have lost my 3 limbs, I have chosen to be independent, living alone. Before that, I had 2 arms and 2 legs, but suddenly I have lost 3 limbs. And the parents got so worried about it, needless to say, and tried to make them feel peace of mind. And it's really hard for me, but I just started cooking. I tried to make my lunchbox on my own. I was the office worker back then, but I tried to make lunchboxes on my own. I have bought the very simple lunchbox, and I have bought the frozen food, and I didn't know anything about the well-balanced diet, but at any rate, I started preparing the lunchboxes for me, and I have taken the picture of the lunchboxes to give the peace of mind to my parents. Day one, they were so present and they were so happy, and I felt that, yes, this is the one. However, day 2 or something around them, the parents said that, oh, why your lunchbox seems so browny? There's no green salad or something. And then they were not happy anymore, and therefore I registered myself to the cookpad. Cookpad is so convenient. You know it, but by paying money, you can enjoy many variety of menus. For example, suppose there's a peanuts or some the vegetable in the refrigerator, and just entering the keyword of such a vegetable, you get a wide range of the cuisines or recipes. And then I have started enjoying the cooking, and of course my parents were so happy. And then I have now realized the joy of the preparing food and cooking, and I have learned the well-balanced food. Little by little, I wish I could share my the cuisine, but if you're interested in that, please take a look at the SNS such as YouTube. Anyway, the joy of preparation food. Cookers can get the joy. Of course, there's a joy of eating delicious food. There are always a joy of anyone involved in eating, because if the dish is tasty, you feel very happy. And that is a good thing about eating and diet. And through this joy, I believe each one of us get connected one by one. The most impressive thing to me is that eating. I didn't take it as very serious one, because I have taken it for granted till I have lost the 3 limbs. However, I realized how hard it is to prepare the dishes, and I now realize the valuable dishes prepared by my mother. This is one learning. In addition to that, there are always cookers and someone working for making those dishes available. For example, there's a chef. If you get married, probably your spouses kindly prepare your food. Therefore, we have to remember the sense of appreciation all the time, because the dishes do not come out from the vacuum. You have to be aware of that. I realized that importance once again, once I have lost the 3 limbs. I know I'm too amateur to talk about cooking and cuisine, but on the SNS, I disseminate as much information as possible, and sometimes I was appraised by the housemakers, but I wonder why they appraise me so much, because I'm not perfect in physically, but I have been given the new life after losing 3 limbs, because I feel the new type of joy in living my own lives. And therefore, cooking is one of the tools make me realize how good to live on. Now, that's all for me. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer to any of your questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Yamada. Not only in the session, but as a whole summit, Mr. Yamada's remark is resounding to us because you have brought the new territory in our mind, I suppose. But I hope your parents listen to your remark. I wonder whether you are online or not. Yes. And they feel that how piety you are, and I wish you are my son, though I have 2 sons. But what I have learned from your remark is that the topic or keyword is nutrition for all, and partnership is necessary. We talked about it about 1 hour ago. However, Mr. Yamada, of course, you have given us such a stimulating remark, but linking with other people is the source of the happiness which enrich our lives. And the starting point is what we eat and food. I think this is the hierarchy of the values. This topic alone can have a whole one-day session, but it's a chagrin not to be able to have further discussions. But a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to change the schedule a little bit because Mr. Yamada touched upon cookpad. So, Mr. Kotake, can you hear me? If you don't have any trouble to join online, I'd like to ask Kotake-san to jump in. Is that okay for you to jump in? Where are you, Kotake-san? Are you roaming around here? I'm here.
I'm here. Are you okay? Well, I was so tearful when I was listening to him. Please, thank you very much for your very impressive experience. I have read about you in the media, but now I'm reading you in real, so I'm so happy. And CookPad, they make customers' cooking experience joyful. And for the better health of the society and people, we'd like to provide a solution for such purposes. While I was listening to Yamada-san, your health and your family's health, he embodies the importance of those health. It's great. And there was a reference to environment in the previous session, and food for individual and also the society health. Food is representing a very important element. I have a question to Mr. Yamada. Yes. So there are many young persons like you who are believing in the potentiality for food. So in order to increase such people more, what kind of actions should we take, or what messages should we get across? Please advise us. Personally, when I started out posting the comments in the SNS, by posting, I was so happy that I received the comments. And also, there was a win-win relationship between myself and the reader of my posts. I cannot say exactly what does it mean. So creation of a win-win system in the system will be something it's possible we can do. Thank you. Together, yeah, we'd like to create such movement. Yeah, thank you, CookPad, for every day. Thank you. Yes, Yamada-san, Kotake-san, thank you very much. Then next time, we will set up a session between you, talking session between you. Thank you. So this is a bit unexpected change, and we have a linkage with Kenya. We hope to have a link. Mr. Yasuyuki Morimoto from Kenya, Bioversity Center of Japan. He's working in Kenya. There was a terminology I mentioned in the prosumer, empowerment of the producers and how it's related to the dietary habits. ICT can be utilized to share wisdom to reduce the cost. So with this notion, he is tackling the effort there. Morimoto-san, can you hear me? This is Morimoto speaking. Biodiversity International and the Research Institute of International Tropical Zone Alliance, and I'm working in such alliance. And as you can see, I am in the process of conducting a field trip research, and this is the northern part of the Kenya. I am visiting agricultural village there in the city, and altitude here is a little bit higher. So they are farmers engaged in farming in the mountainous region. So individually, I visit the farmers and I listen to the farmers and also share the usage of the ICT technology so that they can identify the deficient nutrient and the missing nutrient can be substituted with a supplementary agricultural produce. That's our action I'm engaged in. And Kenya penetration with smartphones is very high. We developed an app for the smartphone, and local nurse and local nutritionists are using the app. And by using the app, we provide instructions to behind me. The CHB persons are having a conversation with the farmers. They interview dietary habits. Through app, they make assessment so that they match the nutrition instruction, matching their needs. So while investigating studying on a real-time basis, they also provide advice too, so that as a result, their overall literacy of the nutrition will be improved. So for the development of the app, there were issues too. Kenya had many ethnic groups, and there are more than 50 ethnic groups, and they are speaking in different languages, more than 50 different languages, and they have distinct dietary habits too, and local dietary habits exist there. So most of the people, Kenyan people, as you can see, leading a dietary life through farming. So instead of doing shopping from in town, at their home they grow produce, and the domesticated animals. Yeah, Morimoto-san, excuse me. I wanted to listen to you more, but maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, can you summarize? And we have someone who are willing to ask questions. I see. So one of the greatest challenges, as I mentioned earlier, is utilization of traditional plants. There are more than 200 edible plants, and 1/4 is a cultured one. The rest is a wild one, and there is a lack of knowledge about the wild natural plants, and the inheritance of such knowledge is one important challenge in Kenya. So traditional food and diet has a connotation that that's a food for people having limited education. So in future, we'd like to involve general businesses so that if there are any edible plant not utilized in the future, we'd like to add value and market them in the. So there should be a creation of synergy too. So we hope to find such a partner too. Thank you. Morimoto-san, thank you. Please stay connected. And you present a great ambience. And also there was a new learning. So partnership with the nature was mentioned, and the health for the global and for health for community and health for individual. Nexus connector is anti-nurturing and actually development. But thank you. And I have a question, and I can have a question and comment from Nagatoshi-san, please. Thank you very much for your very precious spend. So actually, then Bolivia is also using this plant too.
Semi-wild type is really hard to grow, but it has a very good the ingredients such as good for your headaches and so on. And now the modern people are now realizing that, and then they try to use it. However, because lesser and lesser people involving in the agriculture, there's enough volume of such food, and therefore, including that knowledge, traditional knowledge, we have to conserve it. And then SNS, yes, it's used on the field to survey, for example, the traditional diet practice. And we also use SNS to disseminate technologies, but also together by using the SNS, we can collect and obtain the information related to the traditional diet. We have to have such collaboration to this aspect too. Thank you very much. Anyone, any opinions or reactions, Mr. Morimoto?
Well, issue is erosion of knowledge. Yes, there are many edible plants, but so many people are not aware of the significance of the edible plants. So this is how we can nurture such literacy to the plant. It's one question. So adding value is one approach we can take. Thank you for your comments. So a big vessel will stay afloat despite the big wave. So I hope that this represents to provide a great opportunity among Japan, Kenya, and Bolivia to prevent erosion from happening. But thank you very much for being with us for such a remote area. But thank you. So thank you very much for your waiting. Personally, I would like to share the activities I am so attached to, and actually the Ajinomoto Han Foundation, Shigemune-san. Thank you, please.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm a member of Ajinomoto Foundation, and nice to meet you. I'm Shigemune. In 2017, this foundation was established to improve nutrients through food or diet, and this is incorporated in Japan at the Nutrition for Growth Summit. Among our 4 activities, we have issued a commitment to each, but today I'd like to focus on one of these 4 initiatives that is implemented in Ghana to prevent the malnutrition. And therefore, I'd like to talk about it. As you see here, under the Ministry of Health of Ghana, we have established a partnership with the external government, and then in 2011, it's quite a long time ago, but the first MOU was concluded, and then for the following 10 years, we have collaborated each other. Then, as you see here on the upper left, at the Health Bureau, mother brings her children to get to the health checkup, and then nurse gives the diet education. And then as one of the solutions to improve nutrition, if the people take only the traditional diet, some nutrients are insufficient. Therefore, we give the special winning diet called Cocoa Plus. We use the local manufacturing site to produce and distribute this product to local people. And the nurse softly recommends, why don't you try this out? The person in the yellow shirt is the nurse. So under the blue sky, underneath the tree, the health bureau official as a nurse worked together with the community people, and in neighbors, this Coco Plus is available. Our foundation has supported the distribution network. At any rate, mother can buy Coco Plus, and this Coco Plus can be spread over the traditional usual weaning diet, and then in the next round of physical checkup, the nurse can see, the mother can see how good their child's growth is. Now, in the past 10 decades, in the milkman of 10 years anniversary, MIT D-Lab has developed partnership code design toolkit, or PACT in short, to garner the common support and the common understanding. Such a methodology is recently developed by MIT, and then in total, 8 times of workshops were held for our experts, and then the person who spent 5 years in Ghana, who is now in Tokyo, but the director of the nutrition and regional top, participated in these workshops. This is open access, meaning that you can take a look at it. So if you're interested in these workshops, please take a look at it. At any rate, at these workshops, we can share our candid opinions, and we can also deepen our understanding. And I believe that is a basis for us to have a successful result. At the same time, we believe that each one of us has understood each other, but actually that's not the case. We also realized that too. And actually, this misunderstanding is quite shocking to all of us because we try to improve the stunt of Ghanaian children. So the purpose is the only one. We share the goal, however, under the MOU or under the MOC, when those purposes are reflected into the documents, it's just an entry of the actual work for the partnerships. And therefore, in order to fulfill the intended outcomes and impact, you have to walk the talk. You have to work on the ground. You have to try to communicate well, person to person, while respecting each other. That is very important, but it's so hard. Those who receive support and those who provide the support. That's not a partner. If there's the give and take attitude, it's not a partner. Only when we can talk with candid opinions, that is where we can conclude a good partnership. The desire or ambition alone is not sufficient. You said walk the talk is very important. And I think this keyword is only based on your own experiences. Let me hope for further success and prosperity. Now, Coco Plus, it's not about the sales of your product. As you mentioned, whole system should be changed to change the society, and such a ambition can be realized by working very hard from the bottom up. Sorry for my poor facilitatorship. We are already left behind from the schedule, meaning that I have to conclude this session right now. But can I invite Dr. Pilar to share your opinions? Because omnipresent FAO, what do you think? Can you please share views and opinions? Dr. Santacoloma?
Would you like to share with us your frank and insightful reaction by hearing this?
Thank you so much. It has been really fascinating how this session was set up. So there are a lot of inspiring and wonderful experience. I think it's very fascinating to see the different entry points when talking about nutrition. From the point of view of FAO, for instance, we have been highlighting at the international level the issue of having more than 3 billion people which are not able to afford healthy diets. So the experience that you have shared today on the value of food, how the Japanese cuisine and how the engagement of young people are really fascinating. We think that there are a lot to do in collaboration with all possible actors. That is very critical because we need really a transformation of food systems in order to produce healthy diets and also to be sustainable. So we know all the challenges that humanity is facing with the climate change, with the inequity, with crisis around the world. And we need those, all the minds, resources, tools, technologies to come together and try to solve these challenges in the humankind. So, for instance, FAO has already released a new strategy for private sector engagement, where it considers a lot of entities as private sectors, not only from multinationals, finance sector, companies, but also producers, producers organizations, consumers organizations. So all together, we can make that to happen. It's very important to take into consideration the innovations which a private sector are very much leading in many countries, in many places. Innovations in the way to produce, to deliver, to process, and to consume. So these are elements that we much are promoting, and we count with many stakeholders to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pira, for your very encouraging messages to these diversified settings. I hope when you implement your new strategy on behalf of FAO, I think you can invite all of us to accelerate our common shared activities in the world for the sake of all the people, including what you mentioned, 3 billion people who are still in the difficulties. Thank you, Dr. Pira, for your precious participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
それではですね、すみません。私
Now, let me wrap up this session. But actually, I don't want to give you the really poor wrap-up because it may distort the valuable discussion that in the 3 minutes and 30 seconds and 5 minutes. Let me give you just a brief wrap-up. Whether the framework that I have given, as a verb giving, that I have given, whether it worked or not. At any rate, apart from that, the first presentation by Dr. Pira, multi-actor setting based on the expertise and wisdom. This has been covered by other people already, but the initiatives with this concept has been already implemented already. It can be called the collective wisdom. Because the people with different diverse background get together to generate new world and a new society, and this work has already initiated, meaning that innovative partnership is already going on. We have to be aware of that, and I myself feel very keenly about it. In addition to that, Ms. Nagatoshi and Mr. Morimoto mentioned importance of autonomy of the local community and recovery or resumption of the local production and the local consumption, where the health and happiness of local people can be better together with the conservation of the earth's health. Wisdom should be globalized. So we have to practice it, and we have to accelerate this practice for the future. I'm one of the practitioners, and therefore I fully understand that it's easier than said. However, Ms. Nagatoshi's remark is really encouraging because the Jerkas has started the most difficult point, and this is really tantalizing remark for the person working in the global world, because it's dry land and the soil damage is very hard. And if you are successfully in such a tough environment, you can be successful anywhere on the world. And I believe this is one of the successful formula on the global stage. So we have to be aware that we'd better to start in the most difficult point, because what you have learned in those experiences can be applied to anywhere. Then Mr. Tanaka from SIGMAXYZ emphasized the importance of the seriousness and the connection. So connection of the very serious people is very important, and I really see the importance of that. So the enthusiasm and the bars for those serious people is very important. And actually, ba and ba in Japanese and ba in the English languages are so close, because both of them indicate the opportunities of all where many people can get together. Thank you very much. And then the young people have shared their own reactions from the very fresh views. I could not go into the details, but I assume all of you said that you should have said this and you should have said that. I know the feeling that you are now feeling, but that is a food for thought for the next round of international conferences like this. Now, climax to me today is accumulate. It's at the remark of Mr. Yamada. I'm so lazy at the father. However, if my daughter were like you, Mr. Yamada, how would I support my son or daughter? That's what I thought during listening to your remark. Rwanda is my favorite country, but it says, the proverb of Rwanda says, the small shaft of light is very bright in the pitch dark environment. So this represents how Mr. Yamada has lived. And this should be our learning. Yes, there are beauty words such as partnerships and collaborations and so on and so forth. However, living a happy life is very important, and nutrition is just a tool to fulfill or realize that ideal. And then the half wild and half growing combination, this is beautiful, because the partnership 90 minutes ago before this conference, the partnership among human beings, no way, partnership with all of the living things, including the flora and fauna. We have to think about the partnership. That should be the 20th century or 21st century the partnership. So all of the living things should get involved in this partnership. And then last but not least, the person who has survived in the very tough private sector, Mr. Morimoto said that the documents are not sufficient. Just a verbal commitment are not sufficient. Yes, that's right. We believe we understood everything. However, when we try to practice those concepts into the reality, you may face many barriers and issues. At any rate, being able to share this moment, being able to use knowledge between us, this should be the trigger for us to move on. And today's meeting should not be one-off thing. Rather, we have to make this conferences sustainable to make all of the people across the globe happy. And there's always some activities each one of us can do and has to do. Sorry for occupying the stage for a long time, but thank you very much for bearing with very poor chairpersonship. But I'd like to ask Sugita-san to pick up from here. Thank you very much, everyone. Professor Toda, thank you very much for being the moderator for this session. Through this session, I myself have had many perspectives to think about the nutrition and diet, and I realized that the importance of the diet education partnerships, local production and local consumption, and many other elements are involved in the nutrition, meaning that nutrition is very important. In addition to that, there's a joy of eating, And the connection through eating is the basis for all of the society, and this is a very fabric of our society and human connection. Thank you very much for making us realize such an important point. With this, I'd like to conclude this session. Once again, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.